What it do, y'all? It's your girl Makeup and Travel, and for today's video your girl is here to bring you my last video in my collection series. I am recording this on Saturday, so that's why this video is going up. I will repeat that multiple times during this video, but I did take the time to actually record the footage last night, and I just needed to put on makeup and do my intro and my outro today. So I will be showing you guys my full collection when it comes to my eyeshadow palettes. I have quite a few eyeshadow palettes. I grouped them up at the beginning, just kind of what is closest to me, because I've either recently used them or I recently purchased them and I was prepping to do a haul of some sort. And then towards kind of the middle and the end, I really try and group them based on the brand. I do a lot of videos when it comes to my collection just because I know personally I love to see other people's collections, and it's just a favorite part of watching YouTube in general. So that's why your girl is here. That's why I did this video again. I'm pretty sure I've done some form of collection video to some extent this past month. I know I did a recent declutter for my whole collection, so that's pretty new. But yeah, anyways, I just love watching people's collections, and I love actually doing them because it also reminds me of different ideas that I had using the palettes that I already have in my collection to stop myself from shopping. And that's a very important thing for me right now because your girl is trying to become debt-free in 2021. I will talk more about that in 2021, starting in a couple of days. Fun. But yeah, I don't want to talk too much. If you're interested in seeing my full-on makeup eyeshadow palette collection, let's get to it. Hey guys, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just re-apologize. Like I said in the intro, I am recording this literally Christmas night, which, should I really apologize? Probably not. But I wanted to make this as up to date of a collection as I could, which is why I waited until Christmas Day, which is the day before I'm uploading this video. It definitely will not be up at 6 a.m., but I will get it up as soon as possible today. So yeah, like I said, this is the most up-to-date as I have. I have two palettes that are either on their way or have already been purchased from me. The only two palettes that I'm waiting for, one is from Tanika something, I don't remember. It's the Russian brand. I picked up one of their palettes and it just has not gotten to me. I think it's somehow kind of sort of stuck in Russia right now, which makes complete sense. And then the other palette is the Shroud Cosmetics. It's freaking back collab with Beauty Bean. So know that those two palettes technically are in this collection as well. I just quite literally do not have them, and I won't have them in the next couple of hours, which is why I'm filming this. We're gonna start off with this stack of palettes that I've already shown you guys very recently on my channel. This one is the Dominique Cosmetics Latte 2 palette. I've really been enjoying this. I have now used this, I believe, 3 times, and I have not hated any of my looks, which, you know, that is a bonus and sometimes can be rare. So I've really been enjoying this palette. I think 1 or 2 people actually asked me to do a 3 looks 1 palette, so I will do one. It just might not be the first of these stack that I get to. Then I have the 50/50 Makeup, and this is their Autumn palette. I've really been enjoying this palette as well. I absolutely loved the look that I created for my video, and I have reached for this palette a couple of times since then, and I have been enjoying it. I haven't started my 3 looks 1 palette for this palette, but I will be getting to it hopefully soon, but it just kind of depends. I got a lot going on, as I'm sure you guys do too. Then we have my Playing in Makeup by Yolanda Jam Rock palette, and a lot of people seemed very excited with this palette, not only because I got it for such an insane discount, same with the Dominique Cosmetics palette, but also they just really liked the formulation and the pigmentation that they saw on my eyes. I actually have not reached into this palette again, but I do intend to, and like I said, just from that first impression, I really do intend to pick up from the brand again. I just want another discount. I just, right now, with the size of my collection and just all of that and like some other things going on with me, I just can't bring myself to buy anything full price, especially something as kind of a not throwaway, but it's a want, not a need. Right now, that's just not something that I can rationalize doing. This is the Pat McGrath Divine Rose 2 palette. I once again got this on discount and I did do a video, and I've really been enjoying this palette. I do want to get even more use out of it. I want to play with some of these being actual cheek products, so I am excited to get more use out of this palette. And then the last palette that I recently picked up and I've recently shown on my channel is this Nomad Cosmetics Orient Express palette. I still really want to do an eye swatching video with this palette just to show the difference and or potentially not so much different between all of these neutral browns that are in this palette. If you have a lighter complexion, it might be more diversity in these browns, but for somebody of my skin complexion, I think it'd be very interesting and important to show that, just so people see whether it's useful, honestly, to pick this up if they're not super into neutrals. I just really like the brand and their formulation, so I went ahead and picked it up. But yeah, do keep that in mind. So those are all the palettes that I talked about in my indie week for this month. So if you are interested in seeing a review, not even a review, that's not a review, let me back up. If you're interested in seeing a first impressions, just check out like 2 weeks ago my videos and you will see a first impressions on every last palette that I just talked about. Now I have a stack of palettes right here, and these are all in my like display section for my collection. And the way I have like 2 letter organizers on top of my main organizer for my collection, and I house a couple of palettes up there, and these have been palettes that I have reached for that I previously already had, and so I just, yeah, this is why this stack is here. First we have, okay, let's move this back. First we have the Blue Moon palette from ColourPop. This is my one and only ColourPop palette currently in my collection, and this was my favorite ColourPop palette, which is why I kept this one. I really like the types of blues and the diversity. I love that you have such a light blue all the way to such dark blues in both mattes and shimmers. So I personally would highly recommend this one. I know there's some other palettes that people really rave about. Honestly, for me, it's just that I just can't be bothered to pick up ColourPop. I see a palette that I'm interested in, and then 2 days later there's 10 other releases, and I can't be bothered to keep up with the brand or care, to be honest. This is one of my favorite palettes this year, and this is the Tiny Marvels palette, and this was a palette by Sydney Grace in collaboration with Mel Thompson. I love this palette. To my knowledge, it's still available. And I will forever keep this palette in my collection. This is my very first Sydney Grace palette, and yeah, just super happy to have this. And I'm really looking forward to their collaborations with oh, my brain is escaping me, but I'm really looking forward to their collaborations that they've sneak peeked for next year. Hopefully I will like at least one of the color schemes, because the influencer that they're collaborating with, they're going to be having 3 different palettes in that collaboration. Then we have this Menagerie Cosmetics Violet Ink palette. This is no longer available, and I actually have another palette from this brand that is no longer available, but I really love this palette. This is one of my favorite purple palettes, and yeah, I really got a lot of use out of Mimic, and that's why you see pan, because I got a lot of use out of all these shades actually. And yeah, I just really like this palette, and I would recommend it, even though You can't get it, so I'm not going to recommend it. All right, next we have a Natasha Denona palette. This is the bronze palette. This was the very first palette that I picked up this year, and I picked it up with a Beautylish gift card. I really have been enjoying this palette. And I'm really happy I picked it up. It really kind of invigorated my interest in the brand, because prior to this year, I think I hadn't picked up a palette in maybe 2 or 3 years. So this has been really, really nice. And since then, I had picked up another palette, which I found, and it's not here. Oh, I have more palettes. Oh, okay, I'll get those in a second. Then I have my DJ Unique Boutique The Reasons palette. I'm really, really happy I picked this up. This was limited edition for the Christmas holiday, and I picked this up. I think she released this around October or November, somewhere around there. I immediately picked this up. I knew I really, really wanted it. I really wanted to support. I follow this YouTuber and I really enjoy her channel, but I also was just very interested to try another indie brand. I haven't tried very many indie brands in 2020, and this was one of them. So I'm really, really happy, and I will continue to probably pick up from this brand. And it looks like she's actually sneak peeking another palette, so I'm very interested to see what comes out of that sneak peek. Another Menagerie palette that I had on display is this Whale Song palette. So this, I'm pretty sure, is my only specifically blue-green palette. Once I picked this one up, I was kind of like, I'm good. I don't really need another one. I know I have another one in my collection, but this is my main one because it's still available. I really do love this, and these are really my tones that I reach for the winter, which is why these are the palettes that are on display, because I've reached for them to do looks to some extent, whether it was for my channel, for me, whatever. I also have this Revolution Pro palette, and this is the Trans Mischief palette. I had put this in my declutter bin at one point. Then I decided to go through my declutter bin and really shop that section. If you want a video on that, let me know. But this is a product that I actually shopped, found that actually this deep purple is a shade that I had been looking for. So it allowed me to really stop myself from purchasing other palettes, and to really just shop my stash and shop my declutter bin and realize that I already had the shade that I have been looking for. So I'm really happy about this, and I still do enjoy the quality. The only reason I decluttered it is because I felt like I wasn't getting a lot of use out of it, but like that just means that you need to stop buying stuff so much and get the use out of it. So, you know, you grow every year. You grow. This is the first Natasha Denona palette that I picked up, and this is the Natasha Denona 28 Blue Purple palette. I love to reach into this palette every winter, specifically for this silver, and of course all of the other mattes and stuff, but like this is my favorite silver. This silver is like liquid on your eyes. It's insane. And yeah, I really enjoy this palette. If you want to see this silver applied on my eyes, I did do a tutorial. It is on my Instagram, and my Instagram is always down below in my description box. If you don't follow me there, I would say at least go down there, see where my Instagram handle is, and check out that tutorial, because this is a really nice silver. I don't know if this is the same formula. I've had this palette specifically, I would say 3 to 4 years now. So I don't know if she still has the same formula for this palette. I've heard that she kind of changes up her formula a lot, but that silver is my favorite. So yeah, okay. We're just going to keep stacking on the sides. Okay, so I had all intentions of doing a haul for November and December, but who knows if I'm actually going to do that. So these are some of the palettes that are even more-ish recent, right after that first stack that I showed you. So this is the Pat McGrath Quad. What is this in? Celestial Divinity Luxe Quad. So this I picked up on a discount, because your girl is all about the discount right now, and I even tried putting all of these shades on my face. They don't all work for the face, but it is a really nice quad. I really like how neutral it is. It's a really easy, basic, neutral quad to go to, and honestly that's why I picked it up. I've been really kind of teeter-tottering between doing full-on neutral looks and doing my normal typical looks. So having a quad like that, I am actually super happy about it, and I just really enjoy Pat McGrath's formula, all of her formulas. Then we have the Juvia's Place The Chocolates palette. I really wanted this palette for honestly these two and then this shade. Those three mattes I really wanted this palette for, but then I got it and I'm like, why are these two browns on the ends so similar? They have different undertones, don't get me wrong. One is warmer, the other one's cooler, but they're the same depth. And so for me, I just feel like Juvia's Place shouldn't have put two browns like this with the same depth in the same palette. They should have done a depth in between in these two, and it would have been a perfect palette. I'm really trying my best right now to make sure that the palettes that I bring in, I know what I'm getting and I get things that I really want, and I don't get stuff like this. Don't get me wrong, I'm not about to declutter it or anything, but I am going to try and find a brown to replace one of these darker ones, and so I just get more use out of this palette overall. So that is that, but I am happy I have it. Then we have my second MAC Cosmetics palette. I got this during, I believe, the VIP sale, and I loved this palette for so long. I picked up the Sydney Grace bundle, and I enjoyed the bundle, don't get me wrong, but I just reach for palettes more. It's just a thing. So I wanted to go ahead and pick this up, and I have found that it's a really nice palette, and what I will probably do is match some of these beautiful metallics into my 420 palette to get a metallic that I actually like in that palette, because I really like all of the metallics in here, and the two mattes are nice too. I might just throw in one or two of the mattes from the metallic or the 420 palette and just kind of make both of the palettes beautiful. So once again, if you guys want to actually see that on camera, just let me know, because otherwise I will just do that really quickly off camera. Okay, and then my last palette I think that I picked up pretty much this year is my Natasha Denona Love palette. So this was the palette that I had been lusting, busting, and crusting over for quite some time, you know, February 2020. I finally picked it up during the Beautylish gift card event, and I'm so happy I did. I really enjoyed doing my 3 Looks 1 palette with this palette, and I've just enjoyed, like I said, Natasha Denona's formula. I find that the 265 palettes that I have, I really like the color scheme, the depth, the variety and textures and all of that, and so I just think for me, like a lot of people, this $65 price tag is going to be my sweet spot. It has enough shades that I feel I'm getting a variety, and it's also a nice price tag. So those are those. Let me reach down in my bin and we will get another stack of palettes. Okay, so I'm gonna try and keep the brands together now, just because I generally store them together so it'd be a lot easier. These are my 2 Caladios palettes. So this one was limited edition, and this was their Futurism VR Neon palette, and this was the very first palette that I got from them. And after picking up this palette, I did not understand wholeheartedly why so many people were lusting and busting over this formula. I think that the metallics are beautiful in this palette. The mattes are okay. They're not great, they're not amazing, they are perfectly okay. And I mean, that's, I've come to grips with that. I'm not mad at it, but that's how I feel. I know a lot of other people with lighter complexions feel like this is the world ends when it comes to neons. Just for me, my darker complexion, my technique, all of that, I just don't find it to be all that great. But I took the time to give Caladios a second try, and I picked up this Lunar Lavender palette, and I really like this one now. So I find, if I can get it open, that the actual formula for the mattes is thicker. I find that this is thicker, so it actually shows up and stays on my eye with, of course, primer. And these two metallics are still beautiful, and they're actually both dual chromes as well. So I really like this formula, and I can't tell honestly at this point if it's just because this is a neon and I just don't like neons, or I don't like how they formulate neons, or if it's just they have a newer formula. So I am considering very highly of picking up another Kaleidos palette next year, if not a couple more. But like I said earlier, right now I just don't have the money to get things that I want, only things that I need, because, you know, real life comes first. So I have two Dose of Colors palettes that I have Frankensteined. I'm sure you guys have seen this if you've seen any of my collection videos or anything like that. This is the Sassy Siennas, and this one is the Marvelous Mauve. I added two shades from KVD Vegan Quads, I believe they were, just to give me some more variety. At the time when I did this, I just did not see any variety when I was using these on my eyes. Now I have different primers, I have a better technique, a better handle on makeup, and I do actually see the variety in just using their formula. But I still honestly like the fact that I added the two shades for both of them. So I still am getting a decent amount of use out of these. I'm not really like dying to check out of them, but I do enjoy them still having in my collection, so we're gonna keep them. Another brand that I kind of Frankensteined their products is Igneous Cosmetics. If I can get it open. So previously I had, I believe, 3 or 4 palettes from Igneous Cosmetics. I don't know if they're still up and running. I know they had a hard time, I think it was in 2019, and I'm sure 2020 did not help them at all. But I actually really enjoy their matte formula. It's a really nice formula. The shimmer, depending on the shimmer, you know, it could be a lot better, but their matte formula is where it is honestly at. And for me, metallics are easy to reformulate and get right. It's the matte formula that people tend to do really terribly. And I like the color schemes of the palettes that I created, so I'm definitely keeping these. I don't know why I'm pretending like I'm not keeping all of this. I'm keeping everything. But yeah, I'm really enjoying those palettes and that brand. Okay, I'm pretty sure I only have 2 palettes from Lunar Beauty. The first one that I picked up is the Strawberry Dream palette. This is a really nice palette. Like I've said, I'm pretty sure every time I've shown this on camera, I do not like the blues personally. They just don't do what I want them to do in my crease. They're more kind of decoration for the lower lash line. Every other shade in this palette though, I really like. I do enjoy the formula that he has provided, and I really like his mattes. I know a lot of people have problems with this Blue Moon shade or Blue Diamond shade, but I didn't have any problems. I got what I wanted, and of course the packaging from this guy is just stupid nice. It's stupid nice. And then I have the Moonspell palette, which was his Halloween release last year. This is my favorite palette from his brand, and this is in the top easily for my favorite palettes in my collection. I just really enjoy it. I'm sorry my white balance is off. Hopefully it won't freak you guys out too much, but this is one of my favorite palettes. I love the different shades, the different colors, even the neutrals. I love these neutrals in this palette. This will probably never leave my collection until I completely pan it, and if I am able to repurchase it at that point, I will. There's no doubt about it. And honestly, once again, this packaging is bomb. This is the only sleeve I have kept. Every other sleeve I throw away because I can't handle it, but this sleeve, I always find the time, you know, those 2 seconds that it takes to put the palette in the sleeve, I find it for that one, and that one only. Okay, I don't have many Juvia's Place palettes left. Thankfully, I remembered that I store a bunch of palettes down here. I tend to do that. I forget about all the products down here because they're tucked away. Okay, so now I can't forget about them. So let's go through all of the products from Juvia's Place that I have. First, I have my Magic palette, and if you guys saw in my declutter video that I did about a month, maybe a month and a half ago, I Frankenstein this palette with my Masquerade and my Magic palette. I just wasn't getting the use out of all of the shades, but I really enjoyed certain shades from both palettes, so I just made myself a Frankenstein palette. I've really been reaching for this palette a lot more, which goes to show sometimes you just need to create your own color scheme with the brand's formula that you really enjoy. Next, I have the Zulu palette. This is one of my favorite rainbow palettes. I really do enjoy it. It's very interesting undertones and interesting kind of take on a rainbow palette, because this isn't really a red, this is like a strawberry shade, which I really do enjoy. So yeah, really happy with this palette. I have my Saharan palette, which prior to kind of rediscovering my Pat McGrath palettes, this was the not the red, this is clearly not a red. This was the black that I used every time I needed black because it was my deepest, but actually my Pat McGrath, as it should, is a better black than this. These metallics are really nice. This silver gives that Natasha Denona silver a run for its money, but it's not as good. But I really do enjoy this palette for what it is. Then we have the Saharan 2 palette. I really enjoy this, even though you get a far few mattes than I personally think make a perfect palette. I really enjoy the color scheme and the variety that you can make from this palette. And this is also a really nice face palette. All of Juvia's Place's products I can use pretty much as face products if I want to be daring. This is a really pretty blue, purple, orange palette. This is one of my favorite Juvia's Place palettes. I don't know if it's perfectly my favorite, but I really do enjoy this one. And then last palette I believe I have from Juvia's Place is this Festival palette. Honestly, I'm not going to hold you up. I kept it mainly for this Izafa shade, and I really love the mattes in this palette. These mattes really give me blush palette vibes and also just very interesting crease shades, which is why I kept this palette. Otherwise I probably wouldn't. You know, I don't think I've ever actually used this on my lid. Maybe years ago. I should actually use this on my lid. I've been wondering if I would enjoy a black metallic, and I'm sure I enjoy this. And I could always throw on a glitter on top of this to see if I would like a metallic black with glitter. So I'm definitely gonna go ahead and try that. I'm intrigued now, very intrigued. And I have white sweatpants on, so I cannot put this on my sweatpants. Let's see if I can find a rag of some sort. Yes, dirty swatch towel coming to the rescue. All right, so those are my Juvia's Place palettes. I've definitely significantly decluttered this collection, and I know a lot of people don't because they love Juvia's Place, and I do too, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day I just was not getting the use out of them that I wanted and needed, and I just wanted to remove some fluff. I'll be talking a little bit more about that when it comes to my collection next year, but a lot of drastic things are going to be happening in my life in 2021, and like I said, I'll be talking about that next year. So yeah, let's keep going. Two quick one-off brands. This is my LA Splash Classic Horror palette. This is a very favorite and important palette in my collection because this was my very first 3 Luxe 1 palette. I got an obscene view rating for me at the time and even now on this palette video, and that's what really kind of pushed me to continue to do 3 Luxe 1 palettes. So I really enjoy this palette, and I just really want to get more use out of it, to be honest, because it's a good palette, good formula, all that. Then I have my Venus XL2 palette. I won't hold you up. I don't reach for this palette to do completed looks, but I will reach for this palette for one-off shades. I find that if I come to this palette to do a completed look, I reach for the same shades and I pretty much do the same 1 or 2 looks. I'm pretty sure I have a 3 Luxe 1 palette with this one as well, and I really did enjoy the looks that I've created just using this palette. But once again, like I said, it's not a thing that I feel like I can get complicated looks out of, if that makes any sense. This is an easy, like, throw Phoenix on the lid, blend it out with classic, you're good to go type situation. So not a bad thing by any means, but generally if I'm gonna sit down, take the time to sit down to do makeup, especially for my channel, I'm gonna do a complicated look where I want at least 3 to 4 shades. And this palette, I don't find I actually do that type of look with. So yeah. Alrighty guys, time for ABH. So I don't know what the controversy is with this brand. I know from what I can tell, I think at some point they like said that they were going to be putting a bunch of people on PR list, and then I think like after the hype of that went down, they didn't, or they stopped giving out PR. I truly don't know. For me, yeah, we're just gonna keep going. This is not a review on ABH. So this is my Modern Renaissance palette. This is currently in my project pan for the last 3 months of 2020. I'm working to get pan in raw sienna, and you can see how that is going. I've gotten quite a bit of pan in this palette, and I keep saying every year this is the last year I'm gonna have this palette. I don't know, I truly don't know if I'm actually gonna get rid of this one. I feel like I've learned so much about this palette in my own makeup aesthetic and my style, just slowly telling myself you're gonna pan this, you're gonna pan that, and it forces me to use this palette more, and I just learned so much. We will see. The packaging on mine is disgusting. I don't really have a problem with it, but it is actually grotesque. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Okay, next we have my Subculture palette, which this is probably my next dirtiest palette because I really like this palette. I still haven't hit pan because I am using a normal amount of pressure when I am applying this product, but I really enjoy this color scheme, the variety, and I will continue to keep this palette in my collection. Honestly, yeah, that's all I got to say, to be quite honest. I really like this palette, and I would like to start getting some pan maybe in 2021 on that. Then I have my Prism palette from ABH. I prefer this palette for its mattes. The shimmers are okay, but I think for me the mattes are really what made me keep this palette and pick this palette up. Whereas Subculture, I loved both the mattes and the shimmers. For me, it's truly just the mattes in this palette. So overall, like I said, I really do enjoy it, and I will continue to keep it. A last kind of cloth bound palette was my Jackie Aina palette. If I had to tell you one ABH palette to pick up and you are okay with supporting the brand right now, I would tell you to get this palette. I actually was going to get this palette for my giveaway, but because of all of the stuff that's going on with this brand, I felt like maybe the person, whoever were to win my giveaway, would not want to use it, and I want to bring you guys and give you guys things that you actually want to use. So I decided not to pick this up for you guys. Yeah, anyways, I really like this palette. You get really nice colorful shades, even for people who are not super into color, and you also get really nice neutral shades as well. So overall, really happy with this palette. I would highly recommend it. And then the last palette in this collection is my one and only Norvina 3 palette. I must say, like I've said before, this is my least liked palette from ABH. I just truly, me and the formula, I can get along with it, but I don't really enjoy using it all that much. I know I did quite the video with this. I did like a 10 looks 1 palette with this palette, and I think it got pretty good reviews, even if it didn't. You know, I think I liked using it, and I still do. I just don't get along with it as much as I do with this cloth bound formula. So I think for me in the future, I'm gonna stick with her cloth bound palettes. If they come out with more palettes, who knows? But yeah, that's my ABH collection. Just to knock her out, I have 2 more Pat McGrath palettes other than the 2 I've already shown you. And this one is my Dark Star palette. Every time, pretty much if I put this in a description box or even on my Instagram, it's because I'm using this black. I love this black. If you see me reach for a black, it is this black right here. Unfortunately, this palette is no longer available, but honestly, I truly only really reach for this black. These metallics are really nice. This is the shade that I really like out of this palette. And then this was my first Pat McGrath baby, which this was the Subversive. I don't know why I'm looking on the back, because she did not write the names on the backs at this point. This was in her round first 3 palettes. I really enjoy this palette, not only for my eyes, but also for my face. Pat McGrath's fancy shades over on this end, they are really nice blushes and highlighters. If you have a palette from her, I would highly recommend you try it. You definitely want to buff it in. Don't just like throw it on with like a fluffy brush. Like, I know a lot of people use like brushes like this, like a teardrop for highlighter. I would not recommend using a brush like that. If you're going to try and use one of her eyeshadows as a highlighter, I would recommend using a very firm brush like this baby right here, which is the Sigma FO3. Yeah, so this is firm, and you can really blend that in. You don't have to get that particular brush, but anything with that shape, that's what I would recommend. So these are my 2 Pat McGrath palettes. My other Project Pan palette is right here. This is my Love Luxe Beauty Foiled Rose palette. I unfortunately don't have another palette from them. I just have never gotten around to it, to be quite honest. There have been quite a few that I've been interested in. I just haven't picked them up. For this palette, I am insanely happy with what I got and the formulation and all that. If you did not know, this is currently in my project pan as well, to hit pan in this shade right here. I think I might actually be able to get there. It's going to be quite the small amount of pan, but I think I can get there by the time we roll around to doing my update, which will be very early in the new year. Okay, we're gonna do a couple more one-off brands. I always forget to talk about this palette every single time. Why? Because it's always in my everyday drawer, so I forget to talk about it. This is my Fenty Galaxy palette, and I know a lot of people did not like this palette. I did. I thought that this palette provided a lot of nice shimmery topper shades, and also 1 or 2 of these were actually nice thick metallics. Like, this was a nice metallic, then you come over here and you get it like a nice toppery type situation. I think that this palette was actually really nice, and had this came out now, I feel like a lot more people might actually be into it, because a lot more people are into these glittery topper shadows, and actually having them in one palette. I'm happy I picked this up. I will probably continue to keep this palette, just because I like it. So we're gonna keep it. Yeah. I'm pretty sure this is my only Violet Voss palette, and this is a present from my best friend, and this is from their Coral Crush palette. I really like this palette so much. I'm still so thankful that she picked this up, and that I got use out of it. I still do want to get even more use out of it, of course. Hopefully coming into the fall time, in the spring and summertime, I will get even more use out of this, because I think she got this for me in the winter, so I didn't get too much use out of it, but I'm really happy she did. By the way, I forgot to say, my ABH Jackie Aina palette was a gift from a subscriber, and I still do cherish it. I meant to say that it was from her. Everything else I have picked up with my own money, other than one other palette that my best friend got me, which I will talk about later on. So this is from Zuri Cosmetics, and this is their palette. They only have one. And this is a really nice neutral palette. They have revived their brand, so if you are interested in this palette, you can pick it up. I really like these huge pans, and these huge pan palettes, at one point I know a lot of people were really mad about them because they're like, I'm never gonna hit pan, I'm just not gonna get the use out of it. But for me, I'm now coming around to the fact that like these huge pans are gonna allow me to not only use these as eyeshadows but also as face products. I feel as though I might be able to get use out of these 2 shades as a combination for a bronzer. I feel like these two could be a beautiful, beautiful blush. And like I could get use out of this shade for a highlighter and dupe out, at least mentally in my head, I would be duping out the Lethal Cosmetics yellow highlighter that they have for a darker complexion. So for me right now, that's kind of where I am mindset wise and product use wise. And I hope it continues to stay like that for the rest of my life. And another one-off brand, I just never got around to picking up the second palette, and I don't even know what's going on with this brand personally. It is Beauty Wide, and this is their Seasons palette. I really love this palette. This was a favorite shade of mine. Same with this shade right here, this deep purple. Love it. And like these were the three shades. Every time I reach for the palette, I reach for those three shades. And then I really like this like peanut butter brown shade as well. I really do enjoy the formula. I know they're like nobody knows about this brand, but I find that those are the best brands in my opinion. I even like the aesthetic of their packaging. I did get rid of their sleeve just because I liked that I could see the shades before I pick it up. And hopefully I get some pan in this palette next year. I know at 1 year this was my favorite palette. It's no longer my favorite palette anymore, but I really do get a lot of use out of it and I really do enjoy it. All right, another favorite formula right here is the Lick and Lash Flamingo palette. This was my second palette from this brand, and what I loved most about this palette specifically was the beautiful metallics and shimmers. This really showed me that this brand can do a fantastic metallic and shimmer, and it really brought some diversity from this brand to my collection personally. Not saying that I didn't have these shades before, but I did not have it from this brand, and I picked this one up after being obsessed with my Playful palette for years. I tell you, years. This is another palette where the packaging is dusty, busty, crusty. My mirror is cracked, and I have quite the nice bit of pan, especially for me. I really like this palette. I really like the interesting tones and the color scheme, and I will continue to get a lot of use out of this palette. I feel I probably won't hit pan and anything so quickly. This, for some reason, this shadow happened to be lighter pressed than all of the others, so I just got to the pan quite quickly, but all of the other shades are nicely pigmented. They're just not as lightly pressed as that one, so that's why that one specifically has pan. I also I wear a lot of purple too, so that also I guess doesn't help. But yeah, this packaging is actually grotesque, as well as my modern renaissance. That could be a video, a collection of my most grotesque packaging, because that tells you what you're actually getting your money's worth out of, because the packaging's busted, you know? Okay, so I think I've already talked about one or two of my Nomad palettes already. Yeah, my Orient Express. These are my other three that I have in my collection. So I have my Largo di Como palette. I've been meaning to do so many other videos with this brand's palettes that I have. I just, where does the time go, guys? Where does it go? So this is another blue purple. Wow, no, it's not. This is another blue-green palette with some neutrals. I really like this palette. I love the color scheme. I would highly recommend this brand overall, and this palette and any palette that I talk about in this video. This is their Harajuku Tokyo palette. I love this palette. I know a lot of people really don't check for this middle shade and aren't really bothered by this top row. They really just love this bottom row. For me, I like all three. I really do get use out of them. I want to reach for this again. It's been quite a while since I've actually picked her up, but I do want to get more use out of her. I just busy time where I don't know. Then we have another palette I actually picked up this year, which was their Catagina Magica palette. I enjoyed this palette. I really did. I will say it's not my favorite. I would say out of all of my palettes, this is probably my least favorite from the brand, but it's still a really nice formula, still a nice color scheme. You just kind of, you get what you get. Whereas a lot of their other ones, there's like magic, there's difference, there's interesting situation. This one, it's just kind of, you get what you get. but I'm excited. I'm pretty sure they started to sneak peek. Wow. Their palette for next year, and the brand that I'm going to bring up next has already started to sneak peek their palette for next year too, and I'm excited for both of these brands, and hopefully I can put it in my budget to pick up the palettes that they release. Okay, so I'm pretty sure these are my only two other Menagerie Cosmetics palettes, other than the Mini Violet Ink. And this one right here is the Dragon Child palette. I know a lot of people really wish they had this palette. For me, I'm happy I have this because this has helped me to feel secure in the fact that I never picked up either of the Melt Cosmetics Dia Los Muertes palettes, because I was on my no buy, and I feel like this palette right here kind of takes the combination of the best parts of those, at least specifically in the matte. So I'm very happy that I picked this one up. And then I also picked up their Feral palette. The brown is cracking, which is never good. I probably dropped it, knowing me. I tend to drop my palettes like white on rice, and I wipe eyeshadow on my clothes like I'm not wearing them. Anyways, I really like this color scheme, but it's not my favorite out of their palettes. Yeah, it's that simple as that. I do still want one or two of their palettes, but right now finances and their lack of sales are just not the right combination. But like I said, they've been sneak peeking a new palette for 2021, so I am really excited. And like I said, hopefully maybe I can find the room to pick it up. Okay, so from Colored Rain, I only have two physical palettes. I did depot my Cheers to Beauty palette. It actually is in its own Z palette, but with my singles, so I keep that there just because that's how it is. And these are still obviously in their packaging. So this one is my Vivid Pigments palette, and I've gotten quite the use out of this palette this year. I mean, quite the bit of use. I have done a lot, I feel, not only with eyeshadow looks and just kind of experimenting in that avenue, but also I've been using quite a few of these as actually blush. I don't think they stay as well, specifically like these two light peachy shades. I don't think they stay on my complexion all that well. Undoubt, what does that say? Unbothered. That one's not bad as a blush. But yeah, anyways, I really do like this palette. I'm really happy I picked it up, and I think I've really gotten quite the bit of use out of it this year. The other physical palette I have, of course, is the Queen of Hearts palette, and I refuse to let this go. I don't get as much use out of it just because I still have my Modern Renaissance, but I'm sure once I let that palette die from my collection, I will reach for this one in the same manner I was reaching for that one, and then I will get a lot more use out of it. So I'm still gonna go ahead and keep these, of course, but yeah, I just want to let you guys know that. So yeah, that's my Colored Rain collection. Blush Tribe. So this is a brand that kind of they closed themselves because of, I think, family and monetary reasons, but so many people were like, no, stay here, that they just rebranded pretty much, and they are now called Mayali Beauty. I still have yet to pick up a palette from them, but I haven't heard any terrible things, so I'm assuming they're still good quality, but I just haven't done it. So this one is the Hazina 2 palette. I feel like this is an outstanding palette, not only for the formula but the color scheme. I still can never get over this one shade right here, which is Re. I just find that shade alone makes this palette, and yeah, I'm stupid happy that I was able to pick this up. I know this is another palette a lot of people are sad they never picked up. Same with this one right here, which is the Paulina palette. So she started kind of, I feel, this lime green urge in the community, especially the indie community and its lovers of purchasing. A lot of people just really weren't checking for lime greens. She really brought that to the forefront, I feel, and because of that, And of course, because of the color scheme and just the textures and the formula overall, I just refuse to get rid of this palette. And then lastly, I have the Fall Fusion palette from Blush Tribe. And this is just, once again, a really nice color scheme, a really nice palette. The only shade I don't like is this terrible, terrible shade. It's a yellow and it's in the shade Aspen. It's terrible. I mean, there's no getting around it. It's just really not a good shade. But everything else is really nicely pigmented, blendable, all of that. So this is my Blush Tribe collection. I doubt I will get rid of this collection because I really do enjoy these palettes. Maybe what I'll do is depot them later on in life, maybe. But for right now, I like the packaging. I like keeping them together like this. So we're good to go. So I always do this. I always forget that this Dose of Colors palette is a Dose of Colors palette, but this is the Desi and Katie collaboration. I picked this up on 50% off like everybody else pretty much. I do enjoy this palette. Don't get too much use out of it, but it's an easy kind of 1-2 shadow look palette that I do reach for on occasion right before work. I just have not worn makeup to work in over a year at this point, so this palette just has not seen any love. Okay, we're getting down to, I think, the last two multi-palette brands. This one is from Too Faced, and this is their Gingerbread Spice palette. This is a palette that I had my best friend pick up for me a year when we were exchanging gifts. And I'm very, very happy with this palette. I really, really do enjoy it. And I feel I get quite a bit of use out of it, especially for somebody like me. I don't, you know, I'm not hitting pan clearly, but I still feel I get a lot of use out of it. And then we have the Chocolate Gold palette, which was my very first Too Faced palette. And I'm still happy with it. I'm still very happy with it. I still think the metallics are beautiful, and I still think these mattes are nice. They're definitely basic mattes, so you're not going to get a very complicated crease, but when you're doing 2 and 3 shadow looks, you really don't need that. I was considering getting their most recent chocolate bar release, but sanity came to my head and I decided not to do that. So yeah. Okay, I swear it's not going to be another 20 minutes, hopefully. But you know, I like to talk about the palettes when I show them to you guys in case you've never come to my channel and you are interested. Because that's what I like to see in palette collections that I watch. Okay, sorry about that, battery died. This is the Makeup Addictions Cosmetics Meadow palette. And this was from kind of their original line, if you will, where you get very, very pigmented, blendable mattes and very interesting, nice metallics. These aren't my favorite metallics, but I actually really do enjoy them. And the mattes are really nice too. So definitely really like this palette and the formula that it provides. So if you like this color scheme and or you just are interested in the brand, I would highly recommend this range. Then we have this other palette, which is their most recent palette to my knowledge, and this is the Sinful Eyes palette. Now, when I did my review and everything about this palette, I raved about everything about this palette. I said nothing wrong pretty much, and since then I used this palette more and I found more wrong with the palette. So let me talk about it. You get really nice different types of textures. You get metallic flaky shades, you get just normal shimmer shades, and you get nice creamy mattes. The one problem I find with this palette is this baby right here, which is Soiled Money. Soiled Money obviously is a green. You see it, it is a green. But when I get it on my lids and it applies and commingles and all of that with my oils, it turns blue. I don't understand it at all. And I have tried it, of course, with the black to deepen it up, but I've also just tried it by itself, and I still find that it turns into like this indigo blue purple situation, and I don't understand it like at all. So if you're okay with that, then yeah, by all means pick this up. But if you don't like for your shadows to turn shades or whatever is going on with that, I unfortunately would not recommend this palette because of that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And hopefully if you picked that up on my recommendation and you found that to be a problem, you weren't too mad at me, but I genuinely didn't notice it until after, and I finally have the time and remember, and I wanted to tell you guys about it. So we're just gonna not knock over everything. That's what we're gonna do first of all. And we're gonna keep, nope, okay, all right, so you want to show yourself, so we're gonna hide you somewhere else. Okay, so I swear palettes just keep coming out of nowhere and I don't even understand. I don't care what you say, I don't understand. Okay, so I have two Viseart palettes. I have, of course, the Dark Mattes palette. This is my favorite. I absolutely love this palette. The pigmentation, the blendability, it's fantastic. I can't say anything else. This is my favorite Viseart palette, and I will never let this go at all. I also have their Liaison palette, which is a really nice purple themed palette. I'm not dying for this palette. I really like the variety and depth. I like the different textures, but I'm not dying for this palette. As you can see, I have quite a few purple palettes. So this is not a must or a need. This is a must and a need. So take that as you will. But you know, they're still in my collection, so you know, also take that into consideration, I guess. Okay, I'm pretty sure I've looked and found every last palette that is hiding somewhere, some way. Oh my gosh, I'm sure I'm gonna find like 10 palettes when I'm done with this video, but hopefully not. Anyways, I have two palettes from Nabla Cosmetics. So the first one is this Dreamy palette that I reviewed probably my first year here on YouTube, and I reviewed it and basically said it's cute, I like it, it works, but I get one look pretty much, maybe two. And I say that because a lot of these mattes blend together on my eye. There's not much variety or depth differential, so you really don't see much difference on my eyes. The metallics are pretty, they work, they're different, but like matte wise you really don't get that much. Then I picked up the Dreamy 2 palette this year. I believe I picked it up with a coupon from Ulta because I doubt I paid full price. And I must say, this is a very similar situation. So you get 3 true mattes. I actually use this dark brown as another matte. I use it kind of like I use my Natasha Denona Creamy Matte formula. And then you have different kind of textures, shimmer and metallic and glittery shades, and that as you will. So for me, once again, I mean, I pretty much only have these 2 crease shades, right? This is pretty much a brown bow highlight, and this is like, if I ever go back to setting my primer, that's all I could use that for. So then you're left with one basic crease combination and a bunch of different metallics. That's it. So I truly don't know if I'm gonna buy from Nabla again, just because for me, the mattes are the more important thing, not the metallics. And it seems like for Nabla and their palettes, it is the other way around. Now, I have been eyeing their mini palettes, and I think the variety is a lot more even. So we'll see what happens. I will say that I just like the formula of their palettes a lot more than the formula in their mattes. I do not like their mattes. Can't state that more. I don't like their singles at all. And if you're wondering where that weird person that just stated that fact came from, it is now, you know, 2 a.m. Christmas Day. I've been up since 10 cooking, so that's where that came from. Your girl is tired, but I'm still going to record this video before I go to sleep tonight. So these are all one-off palettes, and let's talk about them. So this is my e.l.f. Mad for Matte palette. This is technically the Holy Smokes palette, but I kind of Frankenstein this in a combination with my Jewel Pop palettes. So take that as you will. All the shades that look like there's pan, those are the shades from my Jewel Pop palette. I just like this a lot more. I think that this truly is now a cool toned palette. I felt like before there were some warm tones that I didn't need, nor did I like for this color scheme. I did this because if you look at my color scheme overall, I don't have a neutral cool tone palette, and I feel like this could be it. It stopped me from picking up any other palettes, which is always a plus. So that's why I picked her up. Well, that's why it's still in my collection. My only other Melt Cosmetics palette was my 420 palette. I picked up both of my Melt Cosmetic palettes this year, in case you are wondering. Like a lot of people, I find that this is an okay formula. You can only get away with really putting like 2 or 3 shades on your eyes from this formula, specifically the mattes. Once you start getting into more complicated looks, in my opinion, it just don't work. Okay, it don't work unless you're like cutting your crease and putting concealer down every step. It just, sis, ain't gonna work. This metallic is actual trash, and if I had like another brand that was like this, where I only liked one shade from that palette, I would throw this away and put that metallic here. That's how much I hate this. Like, it is so like not pigmented. It's just it's chunky. It just doesn't lay. I do not like this metallic. I'm even using my short finger to make sure you guys can see how much I hate this metallic. Anyways, I like the mattes. I love the shades. I'm keeping it. But if you want this aesthetic, honestly, if you don't mind just adding a little couple more dollars, go ahead and go for this Viseart palette. It's basically the same thing, now that I see them both side by side. This is the only palette that I have from X&O Cosmetics, but I really do like the formula. I like the brand from what I've seen, and I will say these mattes actually work beautifully as blushes. I've worn this like peachy blush or peachy shade as a blush. It's not the best. I would say the darker two definitely work the best on me, but I do like it. So, you know, hey, more use out of these products that I bought and don't have enough eyelid space to use. I have my one and only Huda Beauty palette, which is her new nudes palette. Eventually, when I need it, I will be using this concealed shade just to get my use out of it, and honestly to get it out of my collection. I also would not mind throwing these two pressed glitters out, and I've unfortunately been considering picking up her Naughty palette just because it's a deeper color scheme. I don't know. I'll probably talk myself out of that permanently, but right now I'm going back and forth. Anyways, I like this palette. I like this formula, just not those 3 shades. Those 3 shades could, let's put it this way, if I was able to pick this up for the first time again right now or pass on it, I would pass on it, but I do have it in my collection. I do enjoy it, so I am going to go ahead and keep it. A brand I really wanted to get back to this year, and I just didn't, was iSlay Cosmetics. I love this Slayer palette. It is bright, rainbowy, but it's fun. You can get so many different color scheme and combinations. I love the pigmentation, the blendability. It's just really nice palette. Really nice indie brand. I believe this is also a black owned indie brand. And I want to get back to this brand along with a lot of these brands that I have like one-off palettes. I want to try more from the brands. It just, everything has to align perfectly, and it just ain't been happening. It just ain't been happening. All right, so last batch of palettes for you all, and then I can go to sleep and y'all can stop hearing me go on and on and on for no reason. These are 2 Inglot shadows. They're not technically palettes, but like, I didn't have anywhere else to put. I have literally all of my palettes in this thing. I don't have any mini palettes anywhere else. So yeah, this duo is just gonna chill here. I really enjoy my Inglot shadows, and I had to pick this up. This was a limited edition Halloween release, and I love Halloween, so yeah, and I think this is like an actual crystal, like for real, which is nice. It's nice. This is a NARS palette in Scandal. I actually really do enjoy NARS formula. The problem with NARS, in my opinion, is they just don't have any variety when it comes to really their color schemes. This is my second NARS palette. The first one I decluttered a while ago, and I really do like this color scheme. I reach for this during the winter. I actually need to put this on display, so I'll reach for this on my birthday. But yeah, I just they need to just really have somebody with a different color palette come to the market before I really pick up from them again. This is my Linda Hallberg Enchanted Secrets palette. This is pretty much a topper palette for toppers. It's cute or whatever. I just don't honestly think to reach for this. This will probably be on the chopping block soon. Or I could use this as a face palette. I'd get more, ooh, I'm putting this in my face palette collection. We're gonna get more use out of it that way. Let me see, is this light enough? It's me. I'll probably still use that. Yeah, we're gonna put this in my face palette because this could be a beautiful blush right here. Same with this. Good plan. Good plan. This is my favorite Suva Beauty palette, which makes sense because it's my only Suva Beauty palette. And this baby is their Block Party palette. I really get a lot of use out of this. I know it doesn't appear that way, but their formula is actually quite pigmented, so you don't need to really pick up too much. I really do enjoy this palette. Once again, keeping her, of course. This Mushaloo palette, I would not recommend this brand from what I've tried. I just did not like the formula, but I like the overall packaging and the color scheme, so I just kind of added a couple more shades. This is a magnetic palette, so what I did is popped out all of their mattes and I put in Igneous Cosmetic mattes because I like their formula and there's no hard pan, and I kept their shimmers. Their shimmers are actually really nice, but their mattes were atrocious, so I got rid of all of those, and now it's a palette that I can actually use, and I do on occasion. Not nearly as much that would warrant me to repurchase this if I coulda, shoulda, woulda, but yeah. Two more quads that I have in my collection, both from Kristen Lee Cosmetics. Honestly, I don't know why I still have them in the quads. I probably should depot these and put these as singles, but you know, it is what it is. Kristen Lee has a really nice formula. I know I haven't talked about their brand pretty much at all in 2020, but it's just been because I have not been really focused in on using singles. I've been more focused in on palettes. That's just where I've been at. But this formula is really nice. To my knowledge, she still has not released any mattes. And honestly, at this point, I just feel like that is going to hinder her. She does really nice metallics, really nice shimmers, even really nice multi-chromes and duochromes. But I really feel like this brand needs to branch out to matte shadows and then further branch out to actual palettes, because although singles are cute and all, there's only so many singles that you can really pick up without needing to justify it, you know what I mean? And even then, the justification cannot always be there. If they branch out to palettes, people are more willing to justify the fact that, one, it's a pre-made color scheme, but also that it's a new color scheme to their collection. And yeah, so that's my 2 cents on that. And my last palette that I have to show you guys is from Cleonid Cosmetics, and this is their Paleo palette. I did have the Archeo palette. I actually have that currently in my declutter bin, and I'm pretty sure it's just chilling in there. We'll see if it ever comes out. I like the mattes and the metallics of this palette a whole lot more than the Archeo palette. I don't know if they changed their formula. I don't know if mine just was not right. I don't know. But one of the mattes came broken. I tried to repress it. It was atrocious, and I've just not liked the palette since. So yeah, that's pretty much that. And I love this palette because the texture, and it's literally hand painted from the owners. I just love that touch of indiness to it. So this is my obscene collection video when it comes to my eyeshadow palettes. This is the last video in my collection week, and tomorrow I'll be seeing what your girl has to discuss when it comes to new makeup releases. I hope you guys enjoyed my collection. On the screen right now in front of my dirty desk, I'll be showing you guys the amount of palettes that I have in my collection. I'm sure it is under 100. I typically don't have over 100 palettes. It's generally somewhere within like the 70s to 80s. Hopefully I stayed within that number. Hopefully I don't have 100 palettes. If I do, your girl need to drop it down. I need to drop it down. So we'll see. Like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And tomorrow's video, I promise, will be up on the right time. I'm sorry for this video being up late. It just, you know, that's how the cookie crumbled, and I am about to stress myself over doing it earlier. So yeah. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow for my new makeup releases, and we will finish out this month strong. And then, yeah, I'm definitely going back to 3 videos a week for the beginning, at least, of 20.